Hi everyone, and thank you so much. So, I know it's been a while since I spoke about capacity, but I've had this download today, and something is telling me to bring back the conversation around capacity. And the topic, we're going to make sure to talk about it because that's the really important part to understand. A lot of folks don't know what capacity is, which we're going to share, which I'm going to speak about as well. But before I do that, hi everyone. Welcome to my corner of Substack. And my name is Stacey Volcy. And I am a consultant. I help organizations, businesses, and for-profits and nonprofits alike build their infrastructure so they can be successful. To me, it's about working with what you have, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But let me quickly just tell Facebook and capacity. All right. So that is posted. That is posted on Facebook. So the thought I had today was really about a topic that I wanted to talk about, a workshop I wanted to do, and what's been happening in the current climate, right? I know there's always a lot going on, but nonprofits are not the only ones. I know a lot of people know me for doing work with nonprofits, but I also work with small businesses and companies, right? And even small businesses have to understand that capacity building is not only about obtaining more resources, it's also about strengthening how your organization functions without the resources that it says it needs or wants, without the people and the tool, and really looking at what tools you already have. Because that's the thing that's really important to me as a business owner. And I want you to understand that you have to be able to do the work with the tools that you already have. And that part is very valuable, because capacity building for organizations, for businesses, it's not only about obtaining more funding or generating more revenue. It's really, I tell my clients that they need to explore stronger workflows, communication, documentation, and operational systems to see how it can increase their organizational capacity with the people they already have, the tools they already have, and other resources they already have. Because one thing I'm noticing is people are losing their jobs left and right? And having to do more with less. So even as business owners, as companies, that is what I want you to look at as well. Instead of woe is me, that the economy is not doing what it needs to do, I want you to start looking at it as to how do I pivot and use the tools that I have to ensure that I'm doing what I need to do. Okay. So you need to understand that and use practical strategies so you can reduce the operational strain that you're experiencing. Like every day you're waking up and doing so much work that you get home, you're exhausted. This is what I mean by operational strain. Your organization is out of whack because all of this is happening. This is all operational strain to me, because I want you to be able to strengthen the sustainability of, well, your company, right? And also support the mission of the company more effectively. The level of efficiency and effectiveness is really important here, because once you master using the tools you already make it very much easier for you to move along and do the work that you need to do. Let me approve this for my son so he doesn't start calling me like left and right. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Okay, so I know I have not talked about capacity in a long time, and I'm realizing a lot of people just think, oh, let's get a capacity building grant. Okay, before you do that, before you try to figure out how to get more money to do things that you say you need, what do you have that you can work with? Okay, so that's what we're gonna chat a little bit about, because like I said, a lot of folks, a lot of companies are being asked to do more with less, right? Be more visible, right? You need to grow and bring in more money. You need to like give me more reports. I need to see what's going on. You need to be more responsive. Or why is this not being done? Where there's an expectation of more outcomes and more work with less. And that's the reality a lot of companies are experiencing, is that expectation to do more with less. So we'll talk a little bit more about it, because you have to think about when that happens, your teams, well, if you're a solopreneur, that's a different story. So you, in this case, I'm talking about you. But if you have staff, your teams, or you're still operating from memory, right? Where you have to remember things to do them. You have to rely on messages on Slack to be able to do certain tasks, because if you don't have that, if you're not able to tap into those, you're not able to do the work, right? You have to think about where all these documents are for you to be able to put things together, because everything's scattered, right? And also, you have to get verbal instructions from someone to even do the work. Like in that case, it's not doing what it needs to do, okay? Because then that level of disconnectedness, or like for things not connecting, it doesn't work, and it puts a strain on you and your business and your organization. And what happens eventually is that performance and the way that things are happening, your performance is going to stop compensating for that lack of structure. Because what happens when you get hurt? What happens when your best performer gets hurt, right? It's, results are not going to come through. Things are not going to happen. That's because there was a lack of structure to begin with that is being brought up to the surface because of these things. So these are things I want you to think about, and things I want you to realize when it comes to lack of structure in a company and a business and an organization, right? Because high performing people, they can only carry the company or organization so far. They can do it for a while, but if things continue to be out of whack and there's a level of dysfunction, they can only do it for a while. But what happens over time is they start experiencing a level of burnout. You start experiencing what a lot of people see as turnover. Like staff are not staying in the companies, they're not staying in the organization, right? There's a level of stalled growth where you're not seeing the growth that you want to see in your company, in your organization, because your high performing people are leaving. Okay, they're not sticking around. Leadership is changing, where you are seeing a change in leadership, where leaders are getting frustrated with some organization or companies that they are deciding to lead, because these companies have a lack of structure that make their jobs very difficult. Because a leader, you'll find great leaders that overhaul the entire thing because they know what to do. But some good leaders, they come in and they're thrown at things, and they don't know how to fix it because not everybody has that background. And maybe your team does not have someone with the capabilities of what that leader needs, right? So you start seeing gaps that exist underneath the work that everybody's been doing, right? Everybody's been doing the work, but there have been significant gaps that are causing a delay in growth, a delay in accomplishing the vision, a delay in everything that's happening. Because many organizations, many companies, they already have more capacity than they realize, but they're not utilizing it because they are not identifying the gaps that exist. They're not auditing appropriately to see what's needed to move to the next level, right? They have like so many unclear workflows that are not working for them, right? Inconsistent processes. And when I talk about, let me go back. When I did a workshop, when was this? In February. I did a workshop in February. It was for small businesses and nonprofit. And the attendees, when I brought up the term workflow to them, a lot of founders and business owners don't understand what a workflow is or a process, right? And to me, it's very important to have like certain workflows for the different systems or processes that I have, because I need to understand what's supposed to happen first and the sequential order in which it happens. The reason that's important to me is if you do not have that, you cannot systematize anything, because you need to understand the process and you need to understand the flow of how it works. Because if you do not, then what happens is that every time you're doing something different, and it's causing a level of inconsistency within your organization or company, and that's something you want to avoid. Okay. So you need to look at these things, because what happened in that workshop, once I showed these attendees what a workflow was, they were able to think about the processes that they went through, right? And organize them into workflows. I showed them different workflows I had in my CRMs because I identified the processes, right? When a client joins my containers, onboarding and offboarding, I had processes in place, and then I was able to determine what the workflow was supposed to be. So that enabled me to take this person from the top of the journey all the way to the end of the journey. And the reason for that is because I understood what steps they were supposed to follow, because I know what I want to happen at the beginning of when they start working with me and what happens at the end, because then closer to the end, if I want this person to continue to, if I want to retain this client, what needs to happen? So these are things that you have to sit down and think about when you are thinking of the operational structure or infrastructure of your business or organization to ensure that it works properly, right? So yeah, this workshop was very fun to do, because then it enabled these founders and business owners to understand the importance of processes and having workflows in place, right? The other thing that I didn't talk about in that workshop, but it's like how communication is breaks down, and there's a level of inconsistency in communication, which causes some issues, right? When you're in an organization or business. So that's there, but those are things I want you to start looking at and considering when you think about how capacity should improve. And another operational issue that I want you to think of, I'm going to ask you a few questions that I want you to think about for today and moving forward to help you with identifying certain things in your company, in your organization, so you can figure out what the bottleneck or the issue or the main stopper is in your organization. And one question that comes to mind I want you to think about what process in your company or organization that constantly breaks down and falls apart. Is it hiring? Is it training? Think about the process that usually falls apart and causes a lot of issues for your company or organization. Now, I want you to think, I'm going to leave you with that question today, or I'm not going to leave right now, but I want you to think about that because we're not going to answer that now. But I want you to think about that before we keep going, because when you identify that, I want you to continue this thought process and write this down. I want you to think of what is happening when this process is occurring, who is affected, and what's the actual cost of this process falling apart. Examples of costs in this case would be like delays, like this person was not able to do their job because this process fell apart, right? Or there's a level of burnout because this process fell apart, then this person had to pick up the slack. So there was a level of burnout. Client frustration. So let's say you have a product that you're delivering and the because I know once you receive an order, some people receive orders, right? The order is reviewed and you look at the mock-up and things like that. You send it back to the client, but you need a process. That's an example of a process that's followed, right? So if there is something that's falling apart in this process, there may be a cost like client frustration. That is a cost, right? Because if a client is frustrated, then there's a level of trust that you're losing. You might be losing business, okay? Duplicated work is another cost because that's costing you time, and time is money. Okay, so think about the cost of the broken process. All right. And that's where you will start realizing the problem is not really the effort. Sometimes it's just the infrastructure. Okay. So I want you to think about these things and really analyze what points in your company and your organization, what gaps exist in your processes and your workflows that need to be corrected. Because one thing that we are doing at SAVJ Coaching and Consulting is we are offering business operation audits to clients, because we realize a lot of people don't even know what the gaps in their operations are. So we are offering audits for companies and helping you determine what the gaps are, what's causing overwhelm, inconsistency, and back-end problems. So you can definitely check the Stan Store link and you'll see business operations audit. So this is for small businesses, nonprofits. Definitely book one with us so we can help support your organization, because the goal right now is not perfection, it is operational relief, because small operational improvements will help you create capacity faster than your mini organization. Many businesses realize, even if you're a solopreneur, right? Operations is paramount in the way you function, because you have to think about capacity is not only about how much funding or revenue your company, your organization has, it's also whether the people that are inside your organization or company have systems that support the work they're being asked to do, the work they're being asked to carry, right? Because eventually what's going to happen, people are going to get tired. People are going to leave. Life is going to life. And growth needs to happen. So that's where you need operational structure underneath the work. Because if the operational structure is there, the work is not going to be as heavy to carry for the staff, and your operations is going to go smoother, and it's going to help you go in the direction that you are trying to go and help accomplish your vision. Because structure is not bureaucracy. And that's the other thing that I want you to remember. It's not bureaucracy. It's not like stuff, button up shirt and things like that. No, if structure is done well, it will help protect your company. It will help protect the people that work for your company, right? It will help support the growth of your company. It will help create sustainability. So I want you to think about that. And I really want you to think about what I asked you earlier and really use that to your advantage. And definitely subscribe to my Substack and catch my future lives because, like I said, it's been a hot minute since coming. I've had a rough, a very interesting 3 months, but that Snyder here or there, we are here now supporting you. And I'm glad I had the systems in place to continue running the show on the back end. I may have not been present for lives, but things are running on the back end, and that's what's important. That's why having systems is very important for any businesses that are running. So with that said, I'm going to drop off now. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat and drop them in the comments. Depends on where you're watching, and I will be there to follow up with you. And I hope you have an amazing evening. Bye, y'all.